people are crazy. This is going to be a disaster.
Mr. Speaker, we have supported our energy sector throughout this pandemic. We will continue to support them and rely on our workers as we build back better. Merci.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Centre. The Honourable Member, I believe you're in mute.
Thanks for your patience, Mr. Speaker. You know, thousands of men and women depend on Newfoundland and Labrador's offshore industry to provide for their families, but this government's announcement on Friday left them behind once again. After suffering 6 months of job losses, this is the latest in a growing list of failed government approaches to the oil and gas industry. No specifics, no timelines, and none of the supports that industry has been asking for. When is this government going to arrive at a plan that actually provides the assurances workers in the oil and gas industry need that their jobs will survive this downturn?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're committed to the successful and sustainable co-management of our offshore under the Atlantic Accord, and we have taken action to support the people and economy of Newfoundland and Labrador. Our government has announced a $320 million transfer to the government of Newfoundland and Labrador to support jobs and to ensure a sustainable, long-term, low-emitting future for our offshore. This agreement will allow the province to invest in activities to create jobs such as safety improvements, maintenance and upgrades of existing facilities, and research and development. We believe in our workers. We'll always have their backs. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Well, member for Cypress Hill Grasslands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Cell and internet connections are slow or non-existent for millions of Canadians. They have less opportunity for working or learning from home. It's also a public safety issue, especially in rural areas. My constituent Mark had his combine catch on fire, and he had to drive 20 minutes just to be able to call 911. 5 years ago, the Liberals promised to connect Canadians. 5 months ago, the Minister for Rural Development said the government will accelerate broadband funding. And 5 days ago, the Liberals recycled an empty promise to accelerate connectivity. So, when will they actually get it done?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, since day one, we have worked to connect over 1 million households to high-speed internet, and that work is far from over. Access without high-speed internet and cell service is difficult in the best of times, but because of COVID, hardships, frustrations, and challenges have increased. Our government is aware. We are accelerating our plans. We are adding ambitions to those plans, and we will do everything we can to connect every household to high-speed internet because economic recovery for Canada begins with rural broadband.
The Honourable Member for Brampton South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Ontario reported a record 700 new cases of COVID-19 this afternoon. 104 of those cases are from Peel region. These trends are extremely concerning. Last week, the Minister of Health visited the Peel region to meet with the public health officials. She also joined Brampton South Youth Council to encourage young people to download the COVID-19 Alert app. Can the Minister of Health inform the House about ongoing work with the process to address rising cases in hotspots like Brampton? Also, can the Minister update Canadians about the latest in vaccine development?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this really important question from the member from Brampton South. And yes, it was my pleasure to meet with Dr. Lowe and all of the hardworking officials with Peel Public Health just last week to talk about what other supports we could provide to the region as they try to combat COVID-19 in their own jurisdiction. Mr. Speaker, this is the approach that we've taken, of course, supporting provinces and territories to enable them to have robust testing, contact tracing systems, but also working with local public health units and regions to ensure that we understand what more we can provide at the federal level. Mr. Speaker, we need to work together on COVID-19, whether it's at the local, provincial, or federal level.
The Honourable Member for Windsor West.
This pandemic showed us that high-speed broadband is an essential service for work and school. 63% of rural households don't have access to high-speed broadband. Some have no service at all. Those that do are seeing rising rates. The Liberals have admitted their plan to connect Canada in the year 2030 is a failure for business, failure for education, fails research, and ultimately fails the consumers with obscene pricing. The NDP broadband plan will get access to everyone within 4 years with affordable prices without costing the government anything and supported by industry and consumer groups. Will the Liberals just adopt the NDP plan and get on with the job?
Honourable Minister.
I'd also add the 2/3 of First Nation communities who currently do not have access to 5010 high-speed internet. We are aware, and since we formed government, over 1 million households have been connected in over 900 communities, including 190 Indigenous communities. Our plan is on track, and we are determined to add accelerated efforts, and I look forward to support from colleagues in supporting the speech from the throne and subsequent measures to ensure that every household is able to connect to high-speed internet.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. During the pandemic shutdown, Canadians banged pots and pans to thank frontline workers, including grocery store workers.
The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, last week the Public Safety Minister said there's, quote, a process in place to deal with cases of compassion for family members who don't fit the Liberal definition of being, quote, necessary for entry to Canada. Donna McCall's adult children are Canadians by birthright. They never had problems traveling back and forth before, but the minister rejected their request to visit their dying Canadian mother. She died a week before the paperwork was done for them to come to Canada. So many other Canadians face the same heartbreaking barriers. Why is there one system for connected elites and one for everyone else?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable colleague for the question. We have taken the decisions that are necessary to protect the health and safety of Canadians and everyone in Canada at the border. We know it's been difficult, and we have to make sure that we get the decisions at the border right, which is one of the reasons why we've introduced an immediate family exemption. And last week I announced that we were going to be accelerating and prioritizing the application of family sponsorships. We will continue to work with all members of the House to reunite as many families as possible.
The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
But the problem is there seems to be two processes, hundreds of special passes for famous athletes and billionaires, for example, while everyday Canadians are kept from work or separated from loved ones. On September 16th, the Public Safety Minister said a new compassionate process was imminent. On September 24th, he just said the current system is in place. On September 26th, the Liberal MP for Beaches East York told families to be ready to apply in a new process this week. It seems Liberal insiders have the details long before suffering families know. When will the minister actually make the changes public, and why did the Liberals set up a cold-hearted system of such obvious double standards for the past 6 months?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I said, we have a system that is ensuring that we are exercising compassion as much as possible. We've introduced an immediate family members exemption. We are accelerating and prioritizing family sponsorship applications. But at the same time, we have to balance those needs against the health and safety of all Canadians while dealing with the pandemic. And I would just underscore that we are still in the midst of a pandemic. We will continue to work with her and all members of this House to strike that balance and get it right.
Great to see you back in person.
The speech from the throne was nearly 7,000 words long. Energy is Canada's leading export and supports 800,000 jobs. And yet there wasn't a single mention of oil, gas, pipelines, or energy workers, nor was there any mention of a plan to expedite the approval process of more than $20 billion worth of job-creating energy projects currently stuck in the regulatory queue. My question is simple: why not?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me quote from the speech from the throne, where it was mentioned, the government will support manufacturing, natural resource, and energy sectors. Quote, Canada cannot reach net zero without the know-how of the energy sector, including people in places like British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Newfoundland and Labrador. Mr. Speaker, we have supported our energy sector throughout this pandemic. We will continue to support them and rely on our workers as we build back better.
These people are crazy. This is going to be a disaster.